what I'm going to talk about, I really don't even know where to begin with. It's an internal urge to share with you the beginnings of a remembrance about what lies beyond the construct, like beyond the beyond, like not just like the astral realms and the heavenly realms and all of these things that we hear about constantly, or maybe not constantly for you, but constantly with the content that I take in. But I'm referring to what's outside of that. So I listen to a lot. I've mentioned this before. I take in a lot of data. But I'm not hearing, like everything is regurgitated. Everything is regurgitated from teachings that have been passed on. And one of the things that a man named Greg taught me was that unless it's your own direct and personal experience, you don't really know the truth. So if I were to apply that to all of this information, whether it's from Egyptians or Sumerian texts or Atlantean or the Kabbalistic traditions or the Rosicrucians or any of that, if I were to apply what he told me, and I know he didn't mean it in reference to any teachings, he was talking more about like news and what I see in the world, right? But I'm applying it to even these ancient teachings, the Cathars, all of that. Why am I trusting that over my own instinctual narrative? Because the story that I hear is a different one. And it's not a different one. It's not different because it's not wrong. But there's more. There's way more to the story and no one's fucking talking about it. It's like polishing the silver as the Titanic is like sinking, right? And that's how I feel about discussing all of it. It's like, why are we still talking about what's inside the construct? How to master the construct? Yes, like I want to master the construct, or I do master the construct, but that's fine, but it's still the construct. Why am I still engaging with this construct? I was listening to Aubrey Marcus, and it's like, I just want to preface this by saying this. Like, I judge myself for being judgmental, right? But a dear friend, Santiago, once said, like, you better judge. Like, we are here to judge, because if you're not judging, it's like, that feels like the psyop to not judge, right? If I don't call out the individuals, it's like so many people are getting lost in the false prophecy, right? And the false prophets. And it's like, it has to be addressed and named. It has to be, because if I can help another avoid going down a rabbit hole that is a dead end, I feel like that is what I'm here to do. That's why as a child, I created maps. I created secret maps. This was a thing I did. And I would fold them into teeny, tiny little like squares, and I would find secret compartment jewelry, like watches, and I would take out the insides and I would stick those maps inside of the watch and I would wear it and nobody would know. It was always about maps. And I feel like that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to create maps and ways out of the construct. It feels like I have come in here to help remind those who are ready to leave the construct, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's almost like we are trapped inside of a loop. And I'm not going to go down the Howdy Mikowski thing. Like, I'm not going to that dark place. I don't feel like I'm louche. I don't feel like any of that. I love life. I love being here. And there's so much more for our eternal aspects of ourselves to be creating, rather than just like looping in this endless cycle and then like painting it with like sparkles to make us feel like it's a good thing. I'm listening to Aubrey Marcus talking to this brilliant man, I forget his name, about the Rosicrucians, and he's like talking about sex. It's like his whole thing is like ayahuasca and sex. I mean, pretty much, because that's what he talks about all the time. And granted, he is interviewing people that are talking about really interesting things. So obviously he has some element of, ooh, shit, of wanting to educate himself, right? But I see a man like him who is really doing his best to be a good man, right? But he's like missing the mark. And it's like, you can, of course, love is great. Of course, sex is great. I love sex. I haven't had it in years. Years. At least 2. Can you believe? I mean, fucking crazy. Anyway, it's not all. It's not the all. And for us to like tell ourselves this narrative that all it's about is love, and all it's about is relationship and finding perfect union and uniting with the other. And I told myself this story up until maybe a year ago. So like, I get it. But it's like, we're not looking at what is actually fucking happening. Do you know what I mean? You can paint a pig and dress a pig up as much as you want, but it's still a pig. And like, I had this disturbing, I did like an HBOA session the other night, and I asked, did I choose to be inside this game, this experience, this reality? And I got a no. And I was like, and I feel like I've asked that question before, but the thing with the testing is that until your consciousness is ready for it, see what you're doing when you're using HBOA is you're getting the highest available source for you at that time. It's literally, okay, imagine like you have a library, but you only have access to certain areas of the library. And until you learn more and you're, more responsible, you can't access maybe this area of the library, right? And it's not like, it's just like a consciousness thing. So maybe I would have tested that question before and gotten like, yes, I chose it. And from that level of consciousness, even though it was much higher than my own at the time, it wasn't necessarily, maybe I wasn't ready to hear that truth, right? So, I mean, you'll have to take HBOA to understand how all this shit works. But let's get back on track. Again, there is no track because there are no notes and there is no outline for what I'm doing here. I'm sitting in my most authentic moment. Like I'm walking around my property, like reeling, and I'm like, I need to make a video about this, and I'll process it as I'm doing it. So, I don't even know where the fuck I was going. Sorry. So I'm listening to Aubrey Marcus, and I'm listening to this whole Rosicrucian breakdown, and it's beautiful. It's like, it's advanced. It's like if I were to, drink some Kool-Aid, it would be that Kool-Aid. And something still about it, it's like, it still feels rudimentary. It still feels like filtered. It still feels like it's not the whole story. And I thought to myself, if I were to be trapped inside of a game, right, whether I chose it or not, it would make perfect sense that there would be a whole narrative that you could discover. There'd be layers and depth and height and width to everything. There'd be a whole, if indeed this is some sort of game, I can't even call it a simulation anymore. I'm past that. It's something else. I don't know what. Well, we'll talk about that another time, as I said in the last one. I'm just not there yet. There would be an entire narrative that you could discover over millennia. You know what I mean? Like, if indeed advanced beings, like, think about this. If you were to have, could you not, as a human, with your current level of intellect, build the most incredible and beautiful ant farm? Could you not create not just a little one like this, but like one that was like a mile long and it had all kinds of, you know, paths and places that they could go? And I mean, right? Like you could do that if you wanted to spend your time doing that and you were somehow gaining something for doing that. You know, on a personal level, you could do that, right? Or even just say like the width of a room, right? So my point is that if there are beings that are more advanced who have created this intricate reality filled with the ability to create within confines, I mean, there are millions of like things that exist here. I mean, you could just get trapped in this universe forever, right? Why do I say right so much? I don't know. And it's like, again, you feel like you're going deep. You feel like you're going to those far out there places. You feel like you're, you know, discovering something new. Sorry, Cathars 500 years ago or Rosicrucians, whatever, Egyptians, they already discovered it. Like, come on, like, let's, come on. Like, really? Are we going backwards? Like, what is really going on here? I know that there's something that exists. There's some aspect of me that exists outside the construct because I'm able to communicate with it. That's how I know. Because in more advanced forms of dowsing, which, you know, we are the instrument. And when you learn and over time, when you like start to, first you start with the, like a high self, and then you move into all these different areas, which, you know, if you and I study together, I'll take you through in a safe way, because there's definitely unsafe ways. You come to realize that there's more and more. Could that be that it's my imagination? And because I imagine something, it is so. Possibly. And when I say outside of the construct, let me be really clear. Let's say this is, or, you know, this is the reality that we're on, right? We die. And there's an astral. There's like a whole other dimension of unseen forces to us in the third, if that's even what we're in. I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, I know that there are unseen forces because I experience them often, like often. And above that, there's probably some like, you know, other frequency-based being at, you know, oscillating at a different speed that, you know, even if just to use the dimensions for the sake of the conversation, that those in the fourth dimension or density can't see them, right? So yeah, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like, if this is the plane, I'm talking about like all those like there's a whole reality, a whole other reality where your soul is completely free to create universes. Yes, we can create universes here. But some part of us is trapped in this vicious cycle. It's vicious. Let's be clear. Let's not call it anything other than what it is. Like, it's beautiful and I love it. I also think that we make it beautiful because if you're trapped in it, you may as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no point in making it even uglier. So we make it beautiful. We find the beauty. We, you know, we're given all these distractions like sex and porn and drugs and even mushrooms and weed and all that stuff. All of it. It's all beautiful and it's a nice way to pass the time. And it's keeping us in this loop. When you go to the other side on ayahuasca and you're speaking to somebody who has done a fuck ton of hallucinogenics, like more than any of you. And I know I sound like a dick, and that's just the way it is, because I cannot anymore with the fucking humility thing and like, oh, I'm going to make myself small. I had tripped on acid over 150 times by the time I was 14. So like, even that alone, my 14-year-old self could trump almost anyone. Okay. I did that because I was trying to maintain the memory of the truth. I know that. I was like, every time I would come back from a trip, I'd be like, remember, these are all filters. When you do this, the filters come off. This is what's really here. The trees are talking to you. Nothing is inanimate. Like, everything is alive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like that. And even when you do that stuff and you see those spirits, or you are spoken to by some majestic being, whether or not that's actually just totally internal process is up for debate. That could just be like this neuron, like speaking to this neuron, and like you're just watching the show and like applying like pictures to it. It could also be that you're seeing energetic beings, fair enough. But they aren't the end all. They are not the be all. Like, every immortal, which is what you are, every immortal being, it's not your soul. Don't call it that. That's something else. That's a hard drive. That's something that's a part of the construct. I know that we've been misguided. Well, you can take this or leave it, but this is what I no longer believe. I think the soul is just like an installed hard drive, so that we remember. Like, so it's like recording. Shit, man. I never thought of that. But like, maybe the recording. Okay, I'm going to have to put a pin in that. And next time I listen to this, I'll listen to it and I'll make a note to go deeper. I don't want to get off track any more than I'm getting off track already. It's like, okay, sorry, I do that, and then I'm always making excuses, and then I like can't get back to where I was. Bear with me. It's part of the process. So when you're on the other side and you're seeing all that stuff, like, I just don't think, oh yeah, the soul is what I was talking about. The soul just feels like a hard drive that's like recording things as we go from life to life. And we are really trained to believe that the light is the end all, that love is the end all. But love leads you to do some really fucked up shit. Love is great. And it's great to have compassion, and it's great to be generous, and it's great. But love may be the end all be all for this construct. But I think that we can't even remember what the ultimate, I don't even know that there is an ultimate. Because what I think is the eternal self that's outside of this construct, or that we will go back to eventually, that this immortal spark of ours will get to go back to a state where we're literally able to create a universe just like this if we want. Because that's how powerful we really are. I mean, to be there. Okay, well, we're all eternal. We're all immortal. We've been around for countless, like literally innumerable years, right? In the construct of time, whatever that is. But like, we've been around forever and ever and ever. I mean, we all have developed incredible abilities, right? We were all imbued with the same abilities. I don't think that one spark has more spark than another spark, right? And yet I can see how we would choose to come into a construct like this. I can imagine how it would be like, oh, in eternity, won't it be fun for some tens of thousands of years, or hundreds even, or whatever, to go into this construct and play this very elaborate game? I mean, there is no time, right? I mean, I have friends that do DMT. Oh man, I could tell you stories. I have friends that do DMT. They're in for 20 minutes and it's like they've lived 200 lifetimes. That story, God, if you're a listening person who told me that story, please come down here and record that story with me. Please. I really intended for that to be my first podcast, but she just won't come down. She knows who she is. That story will change the way that you look at this reality forever. I can never unknow that story. So anyway, where am I going? Let me sit up straight and see if I can get more information from myself if I sit up straight. But wait, then you can't see me right. Okay, here we go. So it feels like this. It feels like there is this opportunity to jump out of the game. I've heard others say that. This is not an original thought. It feels like there is this opportunity that we've been at it for a long time. And every time we're alive, we have these religions that tell us to go to the light, go to the light, go to the light. And that seems to somehow bring us back into this like cycle, right? And then we come back and we live it all again. And man, we have all collectively accumulated some pretty amazing experiences, I'm sure. And if we don't remember that we're inside of a construct, I think we get trapped for like some other cycle. So it's like, okay, let's use like English language. So like there's a game. We're in it. There is an opportunity to get off the carousel, right? It's like the game is coming to her, or the thing is coming to a thing, and there's this ability to hop off. And if you don't hop off, you got to stay on for the next ride. And the next ride, you know, could be pretty long. And quite frankly, while this place is beautiful and I love it, there are probably places that are like way more beautiful, where like the baseline lowest feeling and emotion is love. And like there's probably like way other more amazing things that we can feel and experience. I'm just saying, don't get limited by this love thing. When I listen to all these NDEs, God, I'm really not using my words wisely right now. I'm sorry. It's like, and what, you know, and whatever, every 2 words. Apologies. It's a complicated thing to transmit and to even put into words, so I'm struggling a little bit. I just feel like there's this opportunity to get off and to not get trapped by the love. And in the NDEs, when people have them, they always say like, oh, I was just overwhelmed with love. I never wanted to go back, you know, I like wanted to stay there forever. And I'm like, that sounds like you were fucking roofied by some angels, babe. Like, what the fuck? Like, no offense. If you are real and you are benevolent, don't mean to insult you. But, you know, it's like, when you aren't in control of like your state of being, when you're not able to formulate words, when you're just washed with love, it's like, I know that we are so programmed to think that that is good. But is it? Like, just let that seed be planted and consider, just like contemplate that idea. Love has not been the best to me personally. I mean, I have loved people. I have loved friends. I've loved animals. And they have died, or they have cheated on me, or they have, you know, turned on me or whatever. And I tell you, when you have that love for someone, it makes anything they do that is negative hurt 10 times worse. So I don't know. I can hear all the arguments of like the egos out there trying to like disprove me in this love thing. And I could go down each of those rabbit holes with you, and maybe we will one day. And that's not the point of this monologue. It's just for your contemplation, just to start to like crack into that, like that programming, because we want so much to, okay, if gray, okay, there's the dark and there's the light, right? Oh God, this is a whole other thing I'd have to explain if I go there. I'm just going to go there and then I'm going to explain it in another time. There's the dark and there's the light, right? And when you're in duality, you're so convinced that love and light and power and truth and beauty and, you know, all of that is the right side. And the darkness has its own arguments for why it is what it is. I mean, chaos is essential. Whatever, I don't know. I could try to go there, but I'm not going to go there right now because it's not the point. But the true neutrality of the gray, and like just that exact gray, I've talked about this before in biogeometry. It's very healing to, fuck, I forgot to put the microphone on. It's called vertical and horizontal negative green are both the most destructive and the most healing. But like the gray is essentially the neutral. And that is where the portal out sort of is, right? So it's like when you swing in this pendulum, and by the way, when I use pendulums, they don't swing, they circle. But the goal is to go through the center point. And that seems to be the way out. And that's bringing yourself to neutral. That's not allowing yourself to be swayed in one way or another. In chapter 2 of Reality Transurfing, again, I hate using the word pendulum in a negative way when I also use it in a positive way. Maybe I'm going to have to come up with a new word for pendulums. Find chapter 2 of Reality Transurfing on YouTube. Don't listen to that weird woman because she kind of sucks. Listen to, there's like someone reading this like Southern American, like American guy from the South that's reading it. So he's got like kind of like a thick accent, but whatever. It's great. And I would listen to chapter 2. It will change your life. But like, yeah, it's finding that neutral, and no, the light is not the only story, and no, the dark is not the only story. It's the gray, and it's important. And why was I telling you that? Oh yeah, because, oh wait, it left me again. This is what happens when you're about to say something important. My mom always used to say that when you can't remember, it must not have been important, but I would argue that it's probably actually the most important. I was saying the gray because you have to find neutral because that's the only way through. Yeah, just to consider this thing with this love. And I have so many friends because I used to be there, and a lot of my friends from that time in my life were all about the love and the light and and the dancing and it's like, yeah. And you're also going to have to do a little bit of shadow work. I mean, maybe you're not, but like it would be wise to, I think. And then through that, you start to see that there really is no wrong. But love is one polarity, and evil or fear is another polarity. Evil spelled backwards is, it's, think about it, right? So it's like, I know we think that love is the end all be all, but it's kind of not. It's an extremity. I think that like, I don't know what the real neutral state would be called. Maybe you have some ideas. Let me know. What is the neutral state? Gratitude always keeps coming up. Gratitude feels like, it's like gratitude for the all. It's almost like if you resist something, you won't be able to move through. But when you stop resisting, it's like that pathway opens up. So maybe the pathway out of here is like, has something to do with just gratitude for all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank you. Like, I'm just moving through, I'm not going to get swayed. Oh, I need some matcha. Excuse me. Today's the 4th of July. My dad died on the 4th of July. I think I'm going to tattoo myself today.